when somebody's putting the pressure or the doubt in your mind, like that only fuels you. Count me out. Let me be the underdog. You should consider me not a threat so that I can be, because that is only going to propel me further, farther, faster, because there's that much pride when you kind of prove them wrong.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a free resource for women who work in the sports and entertainment industry. Each week, we get real and talk about the things that hold us back and how we can overcome them and keep climbing to the top. And the top is however you define it. We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Consider this podcast your secret weapon. You will learn from the best in the business and be able to take immediate action with all the advice that you hear. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake, a leadership development coach and consultant. I've worked in sports for 20 years. 15 of those years were spent working for the Red Sox, Dodgers, and the Cubs. After 15 years of working in the front office, I took a leap of faith and I started my own business. Friends, as a Black woman in sports, I know that the industry can take a toll on your confidence and sometimes leave you feeling defeated. Join me each week so I can support you on your journey. I promise you, each week you will feel stronger and more confident than the week before. So let's get started with this week's episode. What if you couldn't get a seat at the table and decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to build my own. Or what if you took a leap of faith and just started your own business and truly believed that you were enough? Carlo, the founder of the Gold Griff Athlete Agency, did exactly that. She was the manager of community outreach and alumni relations for the Kansas City Chiefs, but a year ago, she resigned and started her own business. In this episode, Amanda talks about how she managed her self-doubt and the challenges that come with taking on such a big risk. Amanda talks about self-doubt and why she thinks a certain amount of it is healthy. She reveals that she keeps a list of negative things people have said to her, and she uses it as motivation. She talks about her secrets to avoid suffering from burnout and why she pushes herself to fail faster. Amanda also shares how long it took her to find the courage to leave her salary job, to start her own business, and the 3 things she relies on to pull herself out of self-doubt. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this. Amanda, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so glad to be here, and it's such a pleasure to know you and to be on here to learn more about your show and just chat with you.
Yes, I know. I think we talked like a week ago, and I was like, you have to be on my show. And I felt like we were friends. Like I was telling you about my horrible morning this morning, which I never do to like clients or other guests, but definitely feel like a good connection. And I'm bummed that you're not in Chicago and you're all the way in Kansas City.
I know. I should probably just make a trip just to see you and have
Okay.
brunch or something, because I feel like we are kindred spirits.
There we go. You need a client up here and then make it a work trip.
Right? I can write it off and use some excuse to get there to see you. I'll take that.
Perfect. All right. Before we dive into your career journey, which is incredible, tell everybody when you first fell in love with sports.
Okay, so this is a pretty unique answer, I think. I first fell in love with sports because people I loved love sports. I was never the award-winning athlete. I played volleyball a little bit. I danced for quite a while. I loved how it brought my families together, brought our friends together, how it felt to cheer on my little brother and my little sister, how it felt to be a part of a team. That mentality is something that I think is really special. I am big on you're given a family and you get to pick a family, and that team mentality is something that you kind of get to choose, and it really doesn't exist in any other space. There is nothing like believing in your team and being a fan forever. That's something that is kind of part of your identity, and I fell in love with sports because of that, the way it makes people feel and the way that it brings people together, the good and the bad, right? Like you can be totally devastated if your team loses in the playoffs, but you can be on top of the world when they win in even just one game. I also love seeing the stuff that they do off the field, seeing that Hall of Fame quarterback do things in the community. It's just like every time I'm like, when am I going to stop crying at these? Bringing people together is why I love it. And when I fell in love watching it, how it affected my mom and my dad. Every time there's been a big victory, or about to be a victory, I always think like, I want this for my parents. I want this for my grandparents. I want this for my siblings. I want this for my neighbors. I want this for my son's school because it's just cool. It's just an awesome coming together opportunity. And I think that there's no other industry or sector that does that.
What a beautiful answer. Like no
Oh,
one has
thanks.
ever said that. And I was like, I was with you on that. Like, I want it for my son's school. I want it for my parents. I want it for like it has a lot to do with like everybody else and not you.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the like the ethos behind gift giving. It's more fun
Mm.
to give gifts and see how people react to them and how it makes them feel than to receive them. And I think sports does that.
Yes. It's funny. I had a foster dog. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you know Mike. His name is Mike Wheeler. Yep, that's the dog's name. And he was just adopted, so I had him for like 2 months. But same, like when he knew his new dad came to pick him up,
Yeah.
and like the excitement that Mike felt. So it was weird. I was like, do you know what's happening? Like I feel like he knew. They were both so happy. I was on a high for the rest of the day and the week. I was like, that was the best feeling. Like I just want to keep doing that and give to other people. Now, your line of business, I don't know that you get to forget. Like for me, I forget sometimes. Mike was hard. Mike was a hard foster. And it was really stressful at times. And the end result though was just like I would foster 1,000 Mikes. Like if that's the end result every time. It was just so that feeling. And I don't have the words yet to describe it, how it felt
Mhm.
for me, but like it's such a good feeling.
It is such a good feeling. And that's such a metaphor for sports. I mean, it is a grind. It is a ton of work to be the player or to be behind the scenes or to be back office or front office. It is incredibly hard work. And there are times where you wonder, what am I doing? And why am I doing this? And then it comes full circle and you're like, oh gosh, I would do this 100 million times again just to feel like that and to
Yeah.
see other people feel like that because
Yeah.
it is so worthwhile. And that payoff carries the weight that comes with that grind and that hustle for sure.
Yeah. So tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for.
About a year ago, I founded Gold Griff Athlete Agency. I represent professional athletes in their marketing endeavors, and that includes their sponsorships, their speaking engagements, any agreements, including their name and likeness, their community engagements, really whatever they need help with in that space. But a lot of it is centered around strategic partnerships and ways that they can identify brands that will align with their values in a way that makes sense for them and their family.
Okay, so you founded your own business. And before you did that, tell everybody who you worked for.
Before that, I worked for half a decade for the Kansas City Chiefs. It was just such a dream to work in the NFL. It was the very much so the pinnacle of 8-year-old Amanda. If you told her then that she would be working at the Chiefs, she wouldn't have believed it. It was just such an incredible experience. Obviously, we had such a meteoric rise of the team success and that helps a lot. But I had a really great team with me. Some of those colleagues are my best friends now. I wouldn't have been able to start this business that I have now without the backbone of my experience in the league. The things that I did there were I was, the point of contact for all of the players' marketing agents and community engagement opportunities. I represented all the former players in a smaller cohort of guys called the ambassadors, and they did a ton of work in the community. So just working with them on strategic partnerships and events. And then I was under the community relations umbrella. So I did a ton of work in the community and finding ways for the players to give back in a strategic way that aligned with what they were passionate about.
So when you left the Chiefs, wait, you need to tell everybody you have a Super Bowl ring. Is that correct?
I have a Super Bowl ring. I do. Yeah.
Ugh. Is that like in a safe somewhere? People always ask me that question about my rings, and I'm like, no, they're under my bed.
Right. No, they are, yeah, it's in a safe. There's an AFC championship ring too. That is, my kids fight over who is going to get the bigger one. So we'll see who is taking care of their mom when she's old and, and I will hold their head for a long time. But it's unreal. I look at it sometimes and I'm like, this is just crazy. I can't believe I have this. And hopefully something that will be passed down, through the generations. But I feel really blessed and lucky to be a part of a group that was able to get to that point. I mean, there's no greater award in the league than that, but more so to just be aligned with the players that got us there. I didn't play a single snap, but I feel like I supported them on the back office side in ways that they felt like Amanda and community relations and the colleagues there that I had have my back so I can focus on the field. And I'm super proud of it.
So when you left, what was your title?
When I left the Chiefs, I was community relations manager and alumni relations manager.
Now, what I'm going to say is what I've heard from others, including things I've told myself at the manager level or even director level. People felt like, oh, I really want to start my own business, but I can't leave yet. I need to get to the VP title. Then people will take me seriously. I'd love to hear your perspective. Did you ever have that feeling of like self-doubt when it came to like taking that leap of faith?
Oh my gosh, of course. And I doubt myself every day. And I think that's healthy because it pushes you farther. But yeah, in my mind, I felt like I needed to get to a certain rung on the ladder before I could go out on my own. And it became, as time went on, the structure of the organization and the kind of the path for me was not in line with my objectives and not in line with some of my values and things that I needed in my career path. And that's not their fault nor mine. But it just, in the immediate future, it felt like there wasn't a clear path to a seat at the table that I wanted. And so I built my own table. It was absolutely a leap. If there's a greater word than leap, that's that's what I did. I didn't even know if, I resigned in June of last year, and I was supposed to take the summer off to spend with my kids. And the need for someone in this space was so apparent that I just kind of jumped into it. So I'm still looking for my sabbatical time, and I'm going to ask my boss about that.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see when you do eventually take that. There's a lot of things I want to like dig deep into. So you think, or your approach is like self-doubt is a certain amount of it is healthy. Say more about that, and how do you keep yourself from letting self-doubt hold you back?
Through a lot of work with myself, a good amount of self-help reading, also assistance from a very talented therapist and a very supportive husband. I feel like when somebody's putting the pressure or the doubt in your mind, like that only fuels you. Like, count me out. Let me be the underdog. You should consider me not a threat so that I can be, because that is only going to propel me further, farther, faster, because there's that much pride when you kind of prove them wrong. I literally have in my drawer here, like a piece of paper of, if I can say, shitty things that people have said to me since I started my business, because it is just that pressure is a privilege. I want people to know that every time someone doubts you or every time someone has like a negative comment, I hope that they can use that as just gasoline on the fire that is their business or their dream or their objectives, because there's nothing better than proving people wrong in my mind.
Ooh, you keep a list of shitty things people have said to you since you started your business, which hasn't even been, it's just a year, correct?
Yes, but
right?
you know as well as I do, this is a male-dominated industry, and it is so easy to not even be a part of the conversation. I think I'm the only, female sports marketing agent in Kansas City. And I think overall, I think sports marketing is 10% women. So I have to have something to keep me going. Of course, I have this internal motivation, and I know I do it for my family and I do it for my current self and my future self. But there's nothing better than looking at that sheet and being like, man, that guy was such a joker. Like he called me kiddo in a meeting just to be demeaning, and condescending. And I look at it as hilarious now, because in that moment I'm like, oh my God, he really does think like I am not to be reckoned with, I am not to be trusted. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh no, I do. I do know what I'm doing. And I have great experience. I have trusted connections. I have a great support system. And I do know what I'm doing. I have a lot of experience in this. So.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is, which I hate when people call you kiddo or like call anyone kiddo, unless they're in fact a kid, right? That's okay.
I just can't imagine telling a 35-year-old woman, greeting her with that term, like, I just can't. And I'm sure that they mean it in a really not harmful way, but it's just something that really bothered me and felt like they were dismissing me. So I use it as fuel.
So what I'm hearing you say is it did bother you at first, but you didn't live there. You didn't allow it to bring you down to a place that you could no longer. It didn't steal your like passion or your, you know what I mean? Like it just didn't like pull you all the way down. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I would not be human if I didn't let it dim that light and give me some doubt for
That's
a
it.
little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't be honest if I wasn't saying that. If I didn't look at myself and be like, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe I don't have the experience that I need, or I'm not supposed to be in this space. But then I look back at my track record. I look at, just personal anecdotes and testimonials that people have given me about my business, about working with me, about the success that they have achieved when aligning with me. And I know that I am where I'm supposed to be. But yeah, like I said, it feels really good to prove those people wrong.
And I'm hearing you say it's almost like you have this board of directors. Some are real life people, others are books. So you have like your self-help books, you have your therapist, you have your connections, you have your family, your husband. And then at the end of the day, really like you're doing this, you look at it through the lens of, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my children. And I loved what you said. I'm doing this for my current self and my future self. Like,
Right.
so
And
those are the things that keep you going.
even my former self, like I said, the 8-year-old Amanda who felt like maybe she was not like an award-winning athlete and couldn't align in that way, but I can support those people and bring value to them in a way that maybe they hadn't sought in themselves or weren't able to find previously. So it's been just really amazing to be able to support those people and find things that they're interested in, that they want to align with, and in the process finding more about myself, building out this business, and kind of turning on a entrepreneurship part of my brain that I didn't know I had.
Now, when I talked to you, I think it was a week ago, I got off the phone and I was like, oh, like you fueled my day. I don't even know what it wasn't like a preliminary call to talk about the podcast. That just came to be. Oh, that's right. Someone connected us because, we both work in sports and we both started our own businesses. I got the call and I was like, yes, I'm ready to like rock today. Like I just like I needed that phone call. I was like, that was such a good call. Like I don't even like I just want to call her like once a week and be like, okay, I need you to like just tell me what's going on in your life because you have such a positive outlook towards things. So this is more of like a yes or no question. And if you say no, we're going to edit it out. No one's going to hear it. But will you share with us? Like I can put it in the show notes. You don't have to share with us now, but like some of the books, some of your favorite empowering books that you've read, so others can like kind of grasp onto that too.
Absolutely. So one of my favorites right now is Who Not How, and that has helped me build and scale my business. So the premise of the book is finding the who and who can help you achieve your objectives instead of trying to figure out how to achieve your objectives. So it's aligning with the thought of, you want to dig in and work on the things that you are already talented in. Of course, there's going to be opportunities for you to learn things. And I've learned about taxes and I've learned about bookkeeping and things that I, never knew, maybe don't want to ever learn more about. I could sit and take courses for months about how to balance my books and learn more about invoicing and taxes and receivables and that type of thing. Or I can go out and find a bookkeeper or a really talented CPA that is the who in that space. And I can trust them to be the expert and lean into their experience because I expect people to do the same to me. Finding, like I said, I found a bookkeeper that I really like. Finding someone who can manage me from like a business standpoint and keeping me accountable. Finding a network of who's that are really talented in their space. And that includes you. Like I felt very similarly when I got off the call. I think we have really matching energy, and that's super important for me. I'm big on energy and how people make me feel. So I felt very similarly when we got off. The feeling is mutual for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Another book I have is Indistractable, that's still working on trying to be strategic in my time. And another one I just read is Work Party, and it's more about women entrepreneurs and almost a step-by-step guide of how to find ways that maybe you hadn't considered before to build your business.
Okay.
I'll probably have more. I'll probably have more to give you. I'm kind of looking at my bookshelf. There's many others.
Okay, we will. I'll put a list in the show notes for all of you, and then the who, not how. I think I have that on my like pile of books to read. I have it. It's been there for a while. Do you think that one applies to people who are working, who are in your spot as well? So if you're at the manager level, does a who, not how book help you see like how you can delegate or how you can bring in headcount, like, or how you can make the case to add more people to your team? Like, is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the who, not how, metaphor is applicable to anyone in any role. If you can show that bringing on people who have different skill sets and are experts in different spaces will free up your time to either increase revenue or to meet your other objectives or to bring the company even more benefit, that stands on its own. And letting others lean into their skill set while you manage yours is it's not always easy to do. And I don't know that businesses always see the value in that, but knowing it is the best thing that I have done in my business and truly in my life. And I say this, candidly, and knowing not every situation is similar, but my husband and I were coming home from work and we have two small kids and all kinds of activities. And we both work pretty demanding jobs. So it was just like, what are we gonna do for dinner? Every single night, we're like, this is such a pain point. And so we started outsourcing with a couple of like local meal delivery. And it's not super expensive and it's not super luxurious, but it is the time that it takes off of my mental load to put into either just be present with my kids or maybe knock out a couple emails or chat with my husband. It has paid off in spades. And I think that finding the people who can support you in your goals, but also have that expert knowledge is just so invaluable. And people feel like, oh, I can do it all. I don't have to hire other people. I can manage this. You absolutely can. You will burn out. I am living proof of what burnout looked like.
Yep.
And I think that that is real. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
I would say that's probably my favorite book.
I can relate to the food thing. I 100% like this for some reason when I travel and when I come back, like leading up to the travel and when come back home, I can't get into like the food mode and meal prepping. So I came back, from Seattle on a Tuesday, like late night, and I was trying to order groceries and I didn't want to. Like I was just like, oh, I don't want to order groceries. I don't want to cook. And like I'm just for some reason traveling just really exhausts me. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then next weekend I'm traveling again. So I'm like, I want to cook this week. And I'm like, oh my God, I cut it out like for like when during COVID for budget reasons. I didn't need meal delivery service, right? So I ordered it for next week. And then I like made my plan for the next couple of days. Like I'm like, okay, you're just going to order out your salads. You don't have to make them. Sweet green is very inexpensive. Like you'll just take a walk to get it and it'll be a
I'm
nice break.
just for Sweet Green. I
God,
love.
it's so good.
I
So good.
literally am gonna book a flight and go. So we lived in Boston for quite a while, and I mean, Sweet Green was a problem in budget. It was so good, so convenient.
It's
I'm glad that you did that.
Yes, but it felt so great. So I'm like, okay, so Thursday, Friday, that's what you're gonna have for lunch. Dinner, you have salmon in the freezer. That's easy. It's already marinated, best salmon ever. So I'm like, this is perfect. And then next week, I don't have to think about meals. And I literally all of a sudden just sitting on the couch, I was already relaxing and I was like, ah, and like I just felt so much better. I was like, okay, now I can focus on the things that I need to get done in the short amount of time that I have, like over the next week and a half. Like it just feels great to I always say, like I always tell my sister, I was like, just throw money at the problem and like can we just move on?
No,
And
I
so
know.
yeah, and
I totally.
sometimes it's right, sometimes I don't throw money at the right things, but this one I got right.
Yeah, right. I align with that. I sometimes I throw it at the wrong things, but
Yep.
sometimes you do just have to invest in people who can help with your objectives. So everybody has a finite amount of time in each day. It's the same amount, but there are infinite amounts of people who can support you in your goals. And honestly, just as simple as, meal delivery. If I can have that 30 minutes back with my family or thinking about my business or exercising or doing something that is valuable to me, like that is worth its weight for sure. So
Yeah, there's a level like a huge level of self-awareness to understand like who you are, what you need, and
Yeah.
like just being okay with it and just saying, okay, the pain point is dinner every week with my family. Like,
Yep.
and I think everyone can relate to that. Just even like the conversations I have with my husband about ordering out, that's a pain point. Like, what do we want to do for dinner? Oh my God, it takes
Yeah.
so long. And I know it's a privilege to be able to order out all the time or, you know what I mean, have these discussions. But when you are self-aware and you realize that and you can do what you just did, you solved at the, you're like, this is solving it, like the root cause. Like, let me just take this out, get some help, and just move on. So
Yeah.
it's
I
huge.
mean, decision fatigue, no matter who you are,
Mm.
how wealthy you are, where you are in your career journey or school, like that is real. Your brain can systematically say, I am so tired of making decisions. And if you can take some of that off of your plate to have other people who are skilled in that space make the decisions for you, oh my gosh, it gives your brain a break. And I think that's really important.
Some of the toughest conversations we have are the ones that we have with ourselves. We can convince ourselves to believe stories that we don't even know are true. What's crazy is we allow that story to take a toll on our confidence. Have you been there before? I know that I have. We get in our heads, we beat ourselves up. Here's some tough love. Nobody's got time for that. We are high achieving women who have big career goals. We don't have time to get in our own way. And I am here to support you with my new one on one coaching program, Step into Your Power and Own Your Career. My clients have told me that when we work together, I've helped them get out of their own way, regain their confidence, learn how to manage their emotion and mindset. They've told me that they've been able to get their voice back and use it with confidence. The most important thing, they told me that we've identified the obstacle that was getting in their way. If you want to learn more about this program, scroll down in the show notes, click on the link that says Step into Your Power and Own Your Career. You can set up time to chat with me and we can figure out if this is the right program for what you need. All right, let's get back to the episode. Tell us more about that decision to leave. So what I heard you say is you couldn't see a path forward at the organization. You didn't have a seat at the table, so you built your own, and your table like seems incredible right now. But to a lot of people, and not everybody, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit here, but sometimes you say like, okay, I don't see a path forward, but you keep trying to like knock at the door and try to get in that room, and you keep knocking and knocking, and you're just not paying attention to like what the universe is telling you. So was that a long process for you? Take us through like what that looks like.
It's funny that you say that because that is exactly how I felt. I felt like just keep trying, work harder, work better, do more. We don't quit. I was never raised to quit. Why would I just quit a job and not have something like planned or better, waiting for me? It is so opposite to who I was and how I was raised and what I want my kids to be. But there is also value in finding like maybe the path that you hadn't considered before. You spend so long trying to reach a certain point in your career or, meet the right people or check off the boxes on your, career to-do list. And meanwhile, like maybe the relationships that you're building along the way are something that you could turn into a business. Or maybe the side hustle that you're doing is something that you feel like you could bring to a full-time position for yourself. I was terrified to leave because like I said, I wasn't really sure what this company looked like, but I know that I had the connections and I know that I had the trust. So I like to say, if cash is king, connections are queen. And I feel like I had the connections. I feel like I had the trust. The current and former players that I worked with consistently were a part of my family, and I had worked with them and helped them in ways, on and off the field. But being able to kind of take those relationships and kind of recharge them in a way that was for my business felt really interesting and exciting. I think a big part of it too was being able to say no. People don't realize in your own business the value of saying no. It frees up your time, but it's also just so exciting to be like, yes, I don't actually have to work with you anymore. Or I don't want to take my business in alignment with that brand, or I don't want to have to deal with the drama that comes with this individual. So I think that was pretty cool. And knowing that I could do that was a big catalyst to kind of pushing me over the edge. And I would be
Mhm.
remiss too if I didn't mention the many, many current and former players that, I mean, were my biggest cheerleaders. They believed in me before I believed in myself. And them saying, Amanda, you should do this on your own. Like, you work in a way that everybody trusts you and everybody feels like your family. And, I kind of just shook that off. Like, I didn't really feel, I felt like maybe they said that to everyone, but they kept pushing me and they kept saying, like, you could have more time with your family, or maybe you could make more money, or you could design this in a way that makes sense to you. And so I finally listened to them. So that was a pretty long answer.
But it was a good answer. And I was like captivated by it. So players and alumni, you guys call them ambassadors, right?
Some of them are ambassadors, some of them are alumni, and obviously some of them are current players. There's differentiation with
Yep.
names, and some of them are like misnomers, but it's one and the same. Yes.
And so they saw something in you and were telling you like you can go do this on your own. Like they were giving you that sort of push to go do it. Like that's an incredible feeling,
It
right?
is. My husband jokes that when I get a compliment, like I want to like actually melt into the ground. I would rather walk into traffic than receive a compliment. So naturally when they said those things, I'm like, can you stop? Like I'm working hard here. This is not the time and the place for it. And I'm obviously here and I'm just not in that mental space yet. And then I was, and I kind of backlogged some of that information in my brain about their compliments, what they said my skill set was, what I knew my skill set was, and using that to set up a future business. I think I would say, and I think my friends and colleagues would say I'm loyal to a fault. So I felt a little guilty during that time when I was making the transition that I was maybe, leaving a company or leaving the people that I had built so much experience on and with. And I felt a lot of guilt in that. But truly, I think if they're your colleagues and they're a business of integrity, they will support any employee or any human if they want to go on to be successful and cheer them on. I know I've had
Mhm.
people that reported to me go on and do other things, and I was the first one to say I'd give them a recommendation. I was the first one to write their reference letter. I want them, it's their life, it's their family. I want them to feel fulfilled. And who would I be if I tried to stomp on that?
Yeah, that's a great outlook for a manager to have. And it's really sad that there's a lot of managers out there that don't have that outlook.
Yeah,
And it's something they may have to work through, right? Like and they just right, they don't get that. But it's when you have a manager like that, it is literally the greatest feeling that they are cheering for you, even if it's no longer, serving them and serving someone else.
right. I mean, that is more of a like feather in my cap to see them go on and achieve big things, to move up the ladder, to do things that, light their fire and make them feel fulfilled than them reporting to me and achieving some corporate goals, year over
Mhm.
year. Like that doesn't mean anything to me as an individual. So
Yeah.
I'm proud to be, their advocate. And it's only because people have done that for me too. And I've seen really great
Yes.
examples of it and not so great ones. So
Yes, exactly. And sometimes when you're in the not so great ones, it's easy to copy or mirror what you're seeing because you think that's how it's done because that person has a higher title. And I've made that mistake when I worked for teams. Like I just was like, oh, this is how we do it. Got it. And like you're so like tunnel vision. But nowadays things are different in terms of access to resources and
right.
free resources. So you can, like this podcast, for example, it's like, oh, didn't even realize that's the way to do things. Like I did. Like it's almost like sometimes you just need that like wake up call. And there's so many things out there now that can help you have that wake up call, but you have to be willing to go beyond just your small circle in your organization.
Yes, absolutely. And you truly you are who you surround yourself with. It may be a hard transition for you to find people that are supportive of you, and that is not easy to kind of change your mindset, and with that sometimes the people around you change. And that's okay. I think that's growth. And that doesn't mean it's easy. I've definitely been in that space where and you're younger too, right? You're more impressionable. You just don't have the backbone or the experience to know that this is not a great way to lead individuals. This is not a great way for me to grow as an individual. And this is not how I want to treat people behind me. I think there's a lot of maybe individuals older than me, there's a lot of the mindset that's, I suffered, so you should suffer. When I was an intern, I worked 300 hours and I made $19 a week. And when I was a female and in my 20s, like men would whistle at me. And when I was, I do not care what happened to me. I am going to do my very best to make sure it doesn't happen to you and to do whatever I can to help you navigate those waters. It's not easy, but if I can do anything to cheer you on or give you a resource or make a connection, like that makes me feel fulfilled. So I think there's just a lot of that mindset for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like when you just said the whole thing, I made this much money. Like, yes, and the power dynamic. So when you hear your boss say that and you're trying to climb your way to the top, it's very easy. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it's very easy to think, oh, well, they are in this position and I want to be in this position. I see. This is what I need to do to get there. And it's so toxic, but you don't know it until you get out. Like you have no idea. Even if you leave and years later you hear, like, you're like, oh my God, they used to do that to me all the time. And it's not that you fell for it. And maybe I'm projecting again here, but like you believed that's how you had to do business. And you were like, okay, all right, so I have to make no money. Okay, I can't ask for more money. I can't ask for more responsibility. I have to pay my dues. I hate that. I hate that saying so much. And I hated it then, but I just sucked it up. I was like, well, I got to pay my stupid dues. This is what you do. And there's no such thing. You don't cash out at the end of the day. Like you don't. Like sometimes that holds you back and being in that sort of mentality. So as a manager, like the managers that are listening, it's your responsibility. It's our responsibility to make sure that we're not treating them like, or our team, like, okay, I suffered, like you just said, I suffered, so you have to suffer. Like that mentality has got to go away.
I totally agree. I think every example you gave there is so true. And there's a deep in my mind that happened when I was in similar situations, a deep amount of shame and embarrassment that came when I felt like I was ready to move up or I was ready to take on more responsibility. And it was met with exactly what you said. Well, I didn't get this until then, or you have to pay your dues, or it's just not the right time. And in that moment, you're like, oh gosh, I'm so stupid. Like, why did I should have known better. This is not how things are done, and I should fall in line. And truly, it's the path of least resistance. And I think sometimes it's just easiest in a corporate setting to do that. But everything you said resonates a lot with me for sure.
Yeah. What would you do if you could go back? So this may not even be at the Chiefs. It could be another organization, right? Because you worked there for 5 years. If you could go back to some of those scenarios, what would you like tell your younger self?
Everything in my career has led me to this point, so I wouldn't change a lot, right? Maybe I would tell someone in a similar situation that timing is everything. I know that there is going to feel times when it's like incredibly hard to be where you are, and it feels like you should, be moving up or be moving on, and it has to resonate like in your heart and in your mind to be the time to move on or to do the next thing. And I think just knowing you can't put a finger on like the timing, right? There are times in previous roles that I've had before the NFL that I felt like, what should I be doing? Should I be here? And looking back, I should have been there because it gave me the connections to the next role that I had, or it gave me a person that I met that helped me recently, or this network you have is always growing, and it's always, it's truly a net. That's why they call it a network. It's like it builds upon each other, and there is value in where you are. I would probably tell younger Amanda to just keep believing in herself because it will happen. Just have to wait for the right thing. And that's not even considering what's going on in your family, what's going on with your friends. Like all of these things kind of have to line up for you, and you'll know when the right time is to either move up, move on, or find a different path. So
Yes, you had me at everything in my career has led me to this point. So I don't know that you know what I mean? Like you said, you don't know if you'd go back and change anything. And I feel the same way. Like the lessons that I've learned
yeah,
are so valuable. Like, so some of it was the wrong way and some of it was toxic work environments and dealing with, working for people that I wouldn't want to work for again. But it also just, I don't want to say it made me stronger, but I guess it did. But in the moment, I didn't realize that. But now, like when I deal with clients who are similar, like you, like I'm like, oh, I don't have to work for, like we're not going to be a fit. Like I can tell already. Like when I remember I was talking to somebody and I was giving my pitch and the questions that he was asking me, I was like, nope. Like I finished the meeting, but I only sent one email and like as a follow up, and
yeah.
I was grateful that it wasn't like he didn't respond because I didn't write back again because I was like, this is not going to work. So you get to be picky, but I wouldn't have known that had I had not gone through some of the things that I've gone through on my journey. And it sounds like you're in that same sort of boat.
Yeah, how do you know what you don't like or what you don't need or what you do want or you have to have unless you experience the breadth of it? Like if you've only experienced positive people and great situations and opportunities that are only serving you in a way that is positive, like that is not real life. You have to go through the mountains to get to the valleys, you know? You have to figure out what you don't want to do or who you don't want to be around or what areas you don't want to work in for you to better understand why you want to work in the areas that you do or the people that you want to work with, because it's almost like process of elimination, right? Like I know I like this and this, and I know I don't like this and this, so what's the in between and where can
Yes.
I find value in that white space?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like there's a lot of self-awareness. And what I love to tell my coaching clients is when they deal with somebody who is difficult or, pulls the I made X amount when I was your age, or I had to sit at, on the sideline for forever. What I tell people is it's good practice. If you cannot leave the situation you're in, and you cannot just walk away from money, right? Like, which is the majority of us,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
if you
Yes.
can't do that, then use this as practice until you get to your next place. So be aware, like you said, now I'm going to steal that. Be aware of what you like and what you don't like. Jot those things down and start to create your own playbook, but use it as practice and go up against the big bad wolf if you feel like you want to. But just know that like you don't have to stay there forever. Like there's something else down the line for you.
Right. You don't have to win that battle to win the war. I feel like I lost a lot of battles, the past decade in my career. And look now, and I feel like I've
Mhm.
won the war. I have this ultimate victory of being able to chart my own path and decide what I want to do, who I want to work with, and bring value to those individuals and fight for them and advocate for them in a way that is really fulfilling to me, but hopefully exciting to them as well. So
Mhm. Mhm.
those like small losses along the way are hard to stomach. I have come home and cried, and I have come home and wondered what in the world I'm doing, putting up with different situations and different people. But there's also the things that you learn along the way, and you learn how to treat people better. And there's always value in the work that you're doing. So,
Amen. All right. Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
oh my gosh, I'm so ready.
All right. 12 questions. First thing that comes to your mind. What is your favorite sports moment?
Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl.
That's an easy one.
My daughter was 10 weeks old.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. If I can tell you a little bit about what it was like to pump on a Super Bowl parade float, I'm just kidding.
Uh
I will not tell you about
yes.
that.
What? Give us some context. You can't leave us hanging there. Like that is the ultimate, like we all talk about, like, I don't have children, but I talk to a lot of people who have and the pumping experience. And I will say this one is a first. So pumping on the Super Bowl, say more, give us a little bit more,
Yeah.
whatever you're comfortable with.
No, and you know what? Honestly, it was such an empowering moment. Even at the Super Bowl in Miami, there's this, which is a problem in itself. Dolphins, y'all need to take care of this quickly if you haven't already. They put all of the mothers that were pumping in what appeared to be a closet. It was like, 6 by 6. It had one outlet. If you are not a mom or you don't have kids, you may not know that a pump generally needs an outlet. There's 60,000 people in a stadium. You have to imagine there's some moms. So you're literally waiting in line to pump. And then being honest, it was a weekend of celebration. So it was a lot of pump and dump situations. And
Yeah.
we are sweating because the closet is so small. There's one outlet. We're all just like a little bit buzzed, cheering each other on. But man, and then yeah, the float, it's a pretty long route. It was like 3 hours. There's
That.
some young boys, not boys, men on the float with me that, were just right out of school, maybe interns, and they're like, what is happening here? And there's, if you're a mom, you kind of can't avoid it. So
Yeah, you gotta, yeah.
Bud Light in one hand and I would say it's not my proudest moment, but kind of is. Like,
yeah, like you still, I mean, you didn't choose not to celebrate in Miami or go to the Super Bowl in Miami. You chose, you could have been like, I can't go because I have to pump. And, that's so stressful. Or you could have decided, I can't go on the float because I'm going to have to pump. And it, like you were pumping and dumping anyway. So that there was that value, but still, like you still went. I remember my sister and I flew, I don't know where we were going. It was just the two of us, and she had to pump on the plane.
Yep.
And luckily we were sitting first class, so it wasn't as like, so it was just the two of us next to each other. But she was just like, oh, I just don't want to do this. I was like, I know it's easy. I know I don't want kids, and I know I haven't gone through this experience. I was like, but just who cares? Like, it's just breast, and you have something to cover yourself. Like, I don't know. I didn't get it. But of course, like, why would I? Like, and I don't have all those hormones like racing through my body.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think my sister would feel differently today than she did when she was, pumping, because you just feel different about who you are.
I'm so glad that you are okay with talking about this, because it is sometimes, especially in sports, it's like you don't want to know about what's happening behind the curtain. And it's this kind of stuff, right? So it is not glamorous, but it is a part of who I am. And man, if I wouldn't have gone, I would have had to one day tell my daughter, like, hey, I didn't go because I wanted to be with you. And she would have been furious. So
yeah. And that's right. And that's I was just doing a walkthrough at I forget the name of it, T-Mobile Field for the Seattle Mariners. And they were like proud. The woman pointed out, like, you'd be proud because, my client actually was just gave birth. And so she's like, we have a pumping room, off in the side. And I was like, see, that's the way to do it. Like, it's kind of crazy that now it's becoming a source of pride for organizations or airports. They now have these, and I mean, they've had them for a couple of years now, but like the pumping, you're seeing more pumping, the pods. But it's kind of crazy to think now it's 2023 and they're becoming a thing. What did people do before? What did women do?
I'll tell you sometime when we're not being recorded, some horror stories of people just not getting it. And yeah, sometimes even considering, like, why am I trying to do both of these things? Not just pumping, but being a mother in this space and having an infant. It's just like, how can I possibly balance all of this, especially when, sometimes people aren't as supportive as you need. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad companies are doing that. And I'm sure Miami has made changes since then. That was quite a while ago. So, but it's just
was it a while ago?
I don't know. I'm trying to give them some benefit of the doubt here, but
I mean, right. Like right. When I worked for some teams, and it was never like my job was fan experience. And not once in my head did it ever cross my mind that we should have pumping stations. Or did I ever think about the changing tables?
Yes.
And why you don't have them in men's rooms. So yeah, like, no knock on the Dolphins, because I didn't get it right. And I'm a woman, like, and at that time I thought kids were in my future. So like, I just wasn't thinking about it. I didn't think it was important.
But you took it as a learning opportunity, and now you know better, and so you can be better.
100%.
So powerful, and many people don't see the value in that.
Yeah.
And people that have gained some knowledge in that space.
Yes, in that space, but just also being like, there's a lot I don't know. So there's something else I'm not thinking of. Like, but that's what made me, at least how I felt about my career and like what the work I do, that's what made me feel powerful is when I realized I do not know it all. Like I
Yes.
have no idea what I don't know. Like, yes, I've learned this piece about, mothers and new mothers, but there's so much more that like there's things at venues that exclude people.
Yeah.
But I have
Yeah.
to go out and figure out what that is because I don't always know all the answers. And so that's when I felt like, someone has the answers. I'm going to figure it out. And that's when I felt the most powerful in the role that I have.
100%. And that is so
Yeah.
needed. I mean, the biggest and best lessons I learned are by making mistakes. And a lot of times especially now, I'm telling myself to fail faster because I need to learn from those things. Because I used to live in such a space of perfection and never messing up and being terrified to screw up. And it's just not a way to live. And you're never going to learn if you don't kind of learn the hard way. So
Yes.
great to hear you
Mm-hmm.
say that too.
Yes, yes. And I love the fail faster. There's a lot I'm going to steal from you. Okay, I forgot that we were in rapid fire questions. I was going to ask you more interview questions. Okay.
Rapid fire into long form.
Yes, we got this. Okay. What is something people always get wrong about you?
I think sometimes people confuse my kindness for weakness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Full stop.
Mm-hmm. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
We are eating so much fruit at my house. So blueberries.
I'm in shock. Like I've literally no one has ever said a fruit.
I just like my snack all day long. Blueberries every day, all day. And I'm thinking about it right now because they're in season and they're so freaking good. And we're gonna go blueberry picking with the kids soon. So
yeah, all right. I'm gonna go get some blueberries.
And then maybe like something not as good. Donuts, 100% donuts.
Oh, now I want blueberries and donuts. Thanks. Okay. Are you a morning person or a night person?
Oh my gosh, this is funny because my husband is an all day person, like literally a morning, a noon, and a night person. And he says I'm a like no time of the day person. I don't know what that says about me as a wife, but I would say I'm most productive in the morning. I am early to bed. I am worn out around 9 or 9:30. So yes, I'm a morning person.
That's fair. I was watching the show Platonic and Apple. It's great. It's really funny.
I love both of them. Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. And so she goes to bed and she says, "Oh, let's just go to bed. I'm really tired. It's 9 o'clock," and they're already in bed. It's like I relate. I understand that. I understand that so much. Like 9 o'clock passed out.
Yes, every year for Mother's Day, that's what I ask. Maybe just stay in my bed. I probably wouldn't be asleep, but maybe just stay in bed until like 10 in the morning and then like get back in bed at like 6. Like that would be ideal.
So funny. What's your favorite holiday?
Easter.
Oh, dog or cat person?
Dog.
What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it?
Probably protein bars. I eat a ton of protein bars. And not because I like them, because I'm usually in the car, like sprinting around to the next meeting or the next pickup, and that's all I really have time for. So I would need to stockpile those for sure.
All right. It's better than fast food, so good on you. What is your favorite app?
Okay, well, I just downloaded ChatGPT, and that has changed my life.
I mean, I am blown away by AI, like blown away.
Same. And I feel like a grandmother saying this, but I had no idea the technology, like had they been working on this and just not telling us? Because I feel like this just came out of nowhere. And then there's a lot to learn, right? So yeah, that's been really fun. The other one I use a lot is the Calendly app. And actually you got me turned on to that.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's great. Again, throwing money, at the problem. Scheduling takes up so much time.
Like so much time.
Yeah.
The who, not how. Who can schedule this for me? An app can schedule this for me.
Yeah. Like, here's my link, and you have to be gentle in the way you say it, because when you're talking to, for me, clients, your clients, like you can't just be like, here, find a time on my calendar, what's ready for you. Like I pose it for every single person I talk to, I pose it as here's something to make this go a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Here's the link. If you don't see anything that fits your schedule, let me know and we'll figure it out. But 99.9 times, like percent, like everybody always uses that. And I even had someone in Australia use it. And the only reason she sent me a message was because obviously certain times were not open because she's in Australia. So we figured it out, but she still used it. She's like, okay, I think Tuesdays seem to be the best day on your calendar. And like, oh, it's so great.
Well, and I've started adding like event types in there that are getting a little ridiculous. So it's like, a girlfriend will be like, hey, do you want to grab happy hour? And I'll send her the link for a happy hour. That's like, the time is blocked between like 4 and 6. And I'm like, this is absurd. And my husband's when are you free to talk through, taxes? And I'm like, here's my calendar lately.
It's so easy. Like I do the same. I have like maybe 5 or 6 different links. So it's great.
Okay,
super
good.
helpful.
I'm glad to hear I'm not like abusing it.
Nope. We'll link to that in the show notes. I use Acuity, but I'll link to it, both of those in the show notes. Okay. Where did we go? Oh, Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram?
Instagram.
Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
I think my kids inspire me the most. They inspire me to be better. I mean, obviously I'm not learning like, life lessons, and I want to be like them in a lot of ways, but they're my biggest like inspiration. And then probably my dad always just worked so hard, but always really investing in himself and investing in our family. And he inspires me to do my best, and my mother as well. And then there's always like athlete inspirations, right? Like there's so many that I could think of, but I would say those, my family directly is my biggest inspiration for sure.
As a child, what did you want to become when you grew up?
I don't think I knew really. Like, I think my family comes from a long line of teachers. So I thought maybe that being a teacher would be a good role for me. And then I realized I don't actually like kids that aren't mine. So I didn't know that would be a good fit. That's not true. I like all kids, just not as much as I like mine. I think for a while I wanted to be like a doctor or a nurse.
All right. Finish the sentence. The future of women working in sports is
optimistic.
Yes.
It's getting better. It really is. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But
yes. Yeah.
Getting better for sure.
This conversation has been such a treat. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing that?
For sure. There's an inquiry page on my website, goldgriffaa.com, or on Instagram, or Gold Griff Agency. And I'm on LinkedIn too, so you can find me there. But I would love to connect with anyone who has interest in this space, or if I can just give advice to. I'd be proud to do so.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know that you are super busy, and it's been a year since you started your business, and you are crushing it. So thank you for giving us this time.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to know you and to be a part of this. I truly feel like we have a long-term friendship here. So I hope that I can support you in the ways that you can support me and beyond, because I know we both have big things happening here. So
yes, I love it. I'm so glad that Megan introduced you all. It's all about networking. I'm telling you, this all started with a phone call just to learn what the other one does.
Yes. And I can't wait to promote you and tell everyone how fantastic you are and skilled in your event space and in your industry that you are. So
likewise.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake, and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.